To begin with, I'm Aditya. I've been with Eduonix for quite some time now. I'm here because I love teaching and it's one of my passion. Otherwise, I'm majorly into full stack development. I've been working with many companies in the past, and I'm having bringing around 7 years of experience overall. So now, like what I have encountered in my entire journey and my entire career is, we as developers often face choices that which technology should I choose forward to. Like people change technologies, people change backgrounds. So in all of that, there's always a new technology which is coming in, and the technology which is about to perish in some time. So in these recent years, the mean stack or the stack which is quite common nowadays, or a full stack developer, is by the name of mean stack. This has been for quite some time now, and trends suggest that this is there to stay. How many of you are aware what does a mean stack means? Yes, guys. So we'll just try to make this session a bit more realistic, and we will try to make this session quite interacting as we can. Okay, sure. So now we will begin. These will be the objectives of the session. We will have an introduction to mean stack, the components of the mean, how do we differ? Mean differs from the MERN, the introduction to Node.js and all of these components, and what are the career prospects which comes from the angle of a developer who's about to begin. Before I jump into this, there are some ground rules which I suggest. Whenever we guys are talking, let's try to make this session as interactive as we can. If you have any questions, feel free to paste them in the chat. I'll answer them as and when we are proceeding. I'll be also leaving some or 10 minutes for the Q&A in the end. You can keep your questions reserved for that as well. I would like to answer the question to the best of my knowledge, and the questions can be in terms of mean or it can be in terms of anything which you want. Now, next thing is what is about me. So I'm Aditya. I am having a degree in MTech from BITS Pilani. I'm having almost 7 years of experience in development of applications. And then two stack is 2 years is as a full stack developer with Angular. Philip, I'll come to that. Don't worry. Now, what is the mean stack? I think quite some of you have answered it. Mean means Express.js, so Angular, Node, and Mongo. So MongoDB with Express.js, with Angular, and with Node.js. This all together combines as a mean stack. So now, okay, how many of you are developers who are coming from a development background or who understand what is development? Like any software developers in the house, you could have been an application developer, you could have been like say a Java developer, any developer, Android developer, yeah, UI designer. That's great. So it's lovely to have such a good audience and such mixed crowd. Yeah. So basically, when you say that, okay, that's great, Alan. Okay. So basically, the best part about Mean or best part about MERN, any of these two stack, is the power it gives the developer. Like many people are saying, how do I begin? Should I be, which one is suitable for beginners? The Mean stack, is a combination of everything. It can help you get started from the very basic level to an advanced level. So like if you want to be, or if you want to be a full stack developer, or if you are a student who's trying to look at the career prospects, then trust me, this is the technology for you. Why? Because the variety it offers. Now, how many of you understand JavaScript? Okay, that's good. That's pretty much all of you. That's great. That's great. That's great. Yeah. So now, so the best part about learning this whole stack is the combination or the collaboration it has with JavaScript. Express is a JS. Angular is a kind of a TS or a JS. Node is again a JS, and MongoDB is a JSON-based database. So all of these four modules or four integrants or four parts of mean stack are derived from the JS. So learning one language is enough to get started. So Dishan, there is nothing as which is the most difficult or the toughest part, and which is the easiest part. The best part about this entire stack is the flexibility it offers. So once you are good with JS, you can kind of start mastering all of them. You can start with either Express or Angular, and then you can move on to Node and then use Node.js. JSON is like you have an object. We will be coming to it if time permits, Rian. Don't worry. Now, most of you are asking like, what is better, MERN or mean? I would say like, see, in multiple cases, it's not that one or the other is better. It's the trade-off which we pick up. The trade-off for time performance, the trade-off for the flexibility, or the trade-off of our existing application or the existing stack which we are using. I will now start with introduction to main. So what does mean? Mean stands for MongoDB, Express.js, Angular, and Node.js. So what are these? These are all the four stacks which are open source and together form a building block for my dynamic web application. Now, why mean is so popular is because using one framework, you can develop an application from the starting to the endpoint. So from the front end to the back end and database, all of this is handled inside one stack. That is the power what mean stack offers. Now, the main advantage is every code from the front end to back end is written purely in JavaScript. So you don't need to learn multiple frameworks like in Java. Like if you write backend in Java, in front end you would have to use HTML or CSS or JSP. So those complexity which are there with other frameworks are kind of reduced if you use a main stack. Now next is the problem with the other stacks like LAMP or WAMP or Java is they actually have different languages. And because of those different languages, you have to master the two techniques or the two languages in order to create a full stack application. So now the most common question or which all of you have been asking is what does it means? Or what it is to be a mean or MERN developer. I'll explain you the benefits or the differences between the two. So first of all, see the three parts. So if I talk about Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, this is mean, and replacing Angular with R or React becomes MERN. So how these two differ? Basically, mean, how many of you know what is Angular? Or like who has provided Angular? Or which company owns Angular? Anyone? Yes. Who owns Angular? Google. Yes, correct. So Angular started as a JS library, but now it's a framework. So what is a framework? Now you say that Android is a framework. By framework, I mean it is more or like less like some rule bounded things. So there are certain ways to do something, and you have to stick to those ways in order to compile or in order to develop your application. Does it make sense, guys? Yeah, cool. But now, how is React different? React is more of like a library. So what does a library mean? Library would be like, say, imagine you are building an application and you choose the modules which you want. Like you want material design, you can choose. So this is more of a library. And React is supported by Facebook. How many of you are aware about this thing that Facebook owns React? So this is all of like Facebook. Now, why was this React so popular? Imagine you are building an application and think, so like the like button which you click on Facebook. Now there are like on each screen, there are at least a 50 likes. So if I on each like pressed or unpressed, if I had to load the whole page, it would have been so difficult for me to, reload and, do lazy loading. In such cases, I need to have a language which can quickly adapt to the new thing. So that is where React comes into picture. React offers one more advantage. I think someone has correctly answered it. React Native has the power to work or has the power to collaborate collectively and as a framework React Native, which is very popular for building mobile applications or mobile applications. Does it make sense? So this is a difference. So, but as a developer, how does it matters? So Angular is more of is more of a binded thing. So there are rules, there are ways to do things, and you have to stick to that. React is more of like free thing, so you can choose whichever you want. But so with that, there has to be certain extra boilerplate code which needs to be added up. In case of language, Angular is based on TypeScript and React is based on JSX. So this JSS is nothing but JavaScript plus XML. So it's quite similar. Now the architecture of Angular is based on component, which means that you have to create components in order to make your application. In React, there is no such binding. It can work either ways. Now, what is data binding? Data binding means how do I bind the data? Like say if this is my UI, on this UI, this particular field is being binded to a field in the backend. Like once you log in, how can I capture your username or password in my application code? It is that way of binding. So in this binding in mean or in Angular, this is one way or two way, but in MERN it's only one way. Now DOM, this is the power which counts. So DOM means document object model. So whenever you load a home page or you load a website, the entire page you see, the entire HTML format you see is all about my DOM. So in Angular, that DOM is a normal DOM. So refreshes have to be handled. But in case of React, there's a virtual DOM which is appended. Now, what is this virtual DOM actually? What it means is, so if you update a particular field, the only the DOM corresponding to that fields need to be changed. So the time needed to to have that complex thing is saved, and you just update the one which is needed. And it is a virtual, and this is the feature or the power why MERN is so popular as of now. But but with Angular, the power comes in the hard bounding or the component-based structure which it has. So the easy to use, so the ease of use is medium, and the MERN is easy. But the popularity of mean is much more over the MERN stack. Any questions over here? Okay, there are PDF questions. I'll quickly take those. Yes, Pooja, and yes, all of you. MERN React versus React Native are two different things. Basically, it's not MERN React, it's like React Web and React Native. You differentiate between the two. Okay, so Chirag, what this like you are binding a field on the UI, like so you are typing some username, right? That is a UI element. Binding that UI element to the backend code is more or less like a data binding. Now, Shreya, what do you mean by virtual DOM is? So say you are building this whole DOM, right? You want to update this logo right now. So in a normal DOM, I have to update the whole page in order to update this particular field. Whereas in case of virtual DOM, I will have the tree structure. I know which of the element is holding this particular logo. I would quickly change that, and I might be able to update the entire DOM. A pretty simple example. Okay, if time permits, I'll show you an example of how this can be done. So to avoid refresh pages, there are different ways of doing it. So there are for certain JavaScript commands which can help us achieve that. Now, moving on to Node.js. So what is a Node.js? Node is nothing but a runtime environment. What do you mean by runtime environment? How many of you have heard of WAMP server or Apache server or IIS server? How many of you have heard of these servers? So like these servers, we have a server which is known as a node server. So the node is the language which runs, or it's a cross-platform thing, which can run on a JavaScript runtime environment. So it can execute the JS code into a web browser. Make sense? Now, what does Node allow me to do is Node would allow me to have server-side scripting, so which would mean that you can run your server scripts and you can create dynamic web pages. So what do you mean by dynamic pages? Imagine when you log into Amazon. Amazon shows you your name, hi username, or whatever is that name. That page is dynamic in nature. That means it is able to get the dynamic page and is able to be shown to the user. Any questions on this front, guys? Okay, cool. Okay, there are PDF questions. I'll just quickly take those. Okay, cool. So now, then what is this? So Node is, so why is Node so popular? Because See, when I talk about my LAMP is limited to Linux, WAMP is on Windows. So that cross-platform availability is still not available, and that is where Node comes into picture. Node is so popular because of its ability to work on different framework everywhere. Now, so often people confuse that, hey, this is a JS. JS means that it is supposed to be like a JavaScript file. But a small clarification: don't confuse Node.js with the file. It's more of a product which is there. So it's a Node.js. So it's a product. It's not a technology or a framework. Now, why is Node.js? Okay, I have a question. Do you think that Node.js it can be multi-threaded? How many of you are aware about multi-threading? I have a question. Can I run multiple threads in my Node.js? Okay, cool. Yes, you can't run multiple threads in a Node.js server. That's correct. But Node.js is capable of handling asynchronous requests. So what do you mean by asynchronous? So you send a request and you don't need to wait for the response of the request in order to be answered. You can answer the request and move on to the next one. Now, so why is this so popular? Because of its popularity and because of the web design or the web architecture it offers, it is really a good choice to choose on to develop your application. Now, the next thing would be my Express.js. Okay, wait. Okay, I'm missing a part. Yeah. So what is my Express.js? So now Node is something, it's a framework. So you have to install Node and you can then install the NPM. But to install Express, you would have to create a new package. You would change your application to the my application and then you would run the command. So whenever you want to start a NPM or whenever you want to have a package.json created, you can run the command which goes like this, npm init. This would create a new application. Now, why I'm doing it or why I'm explaining Express is because Express is the easiest to code. So I'll be showing you guys how can you create a small sample API. Okay, so you would install this, and so once you click install, you should be able to get your Express installed. So now, what is Express.js? So Express.js is a framework on the top of Node. But the power it offers is, in simple words, you can run or you can have APIs which are deployed or which are there in Node, which can run or which can serve client request. Does it make sense? So whenever, like say, to connect with database, you need certain APIs. So those APIs can be written in Express.js. So now with this APIs, the benefit you get is you can do anything. You can call those APIs on the web or on the uh, native applications or in Android apps or iOS apps also. Which one do you want me to explain? Man, don't confuse HTTP server with Express. HTTP, it's a server, right? But Express is used to create APIs. I'll be showing it to you, don't worry. So what's happening is, okay, don't worry. Let me just quickly go to the next thing. I'll explain you over here. This is my Express.js code. What I'm saying is that this is my Express.js code. It is running on port 3000, and once you call slash, it would echo you or would send you the response hello world API. So in short, this you can use Express.js to create your APIs. Is it clear now, all of you? Now, this API is platform independent. You can call it anywhere. It can be in Android, in web, or whatever you like. Now, this is clear. I'll move back to the explanation part. Yeah. So it's basically, it offers HTTP requests which can be used. So in simple words, Express is nothing but HTTP APIs in a quick and easy way. So now you can deploy this on a node middleware and you should be having your running server right then and there. Yes, you can share, you can call. So if you're filing a GET request, you can call it from the APIs directly or from the server directly. So any questions on the Express front, guys? Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. So now we will move on to the next thing, which is one of my personal favorites. It's MongoDB. So what is MongoDB is? MongoDB is more of like a database. So what do you mean by database? When the which you use to store some values. So why you store some values? You store values because you want to retrieve them later, right? A common example could be, it's similar to Oracle database. But the problem with Oracle database or other databases is the complexity they offer. To run an Oracle database, you need to have certain memory limits, but MongoDB is more of like JSON. So you store JSON documents. So what is JSON? JSON means JavaScript object notation. So I'll quickly annotate something. Confirm me guys once you're able to see. Guys, can you see some annotations on the screen over here? Please confirm once you're able to see, guys. So now this whole document which is coming over here is a JSON document. Now this JSON document is something which I'm using or which I'm referring. But when I'm storing, traditionally what was happening was my documents were stored in the form of rows and columns, something like this. These were stored as traditional rows and columns. But the problem with rows and columns is it's not everything can be a row and a column, right? That is where the need of having an environment like this comes into picture. So MongoDB offers you a power to store these documents directly into the system. Does it make sense, guys? So we'll now move ahead with the next thing. Okay. I'll give you an example, Abhishek, don't worry. So if you see over here, now this is my JSON document. I say name and I give some name. And I say topic, I say me. Now this is a document for me, right? So I can quickly store this document over here directly. So this is the power it offers, which was not traditionally available in my other databases. Can you move ahead, guys? Sure. So now, what is MongoDB? It's a NoSQL database model. So what it means is there's no need to have a schema in place. Next is each record inserted into MongoDB is a document, so which is but nothing but a field value pair rather than being a relational model. Now, MongoDB documents are more or less like JSON objects, so you can store them and you can use them. Other thing is each field or each part of a document can even include subdocuments, arrays, and an array of documents. So which means that practically there is no limit or no end limit to it. So you can have a document, a subdocument, and there's a subdocument inside it. Or you can have a document and that document can have a subdocument, and one of the field of that subdocument can have an array of documents. So ODM is object document mapping and ORM is object relationship mapping. So ORM means that you say that ORM is used when you are using, so basically from your application, when you want to reduce your code complexity and you want to connect to your relational databases, then you use ORM. When you want to use document type databases like MongoDB or Cosmos DB or Document DB, then you use ODM. Does it answer your question, Mayank? Advantages of MongoDB. So it offers native data types, so it's quite flexible, easy. It gives you the flexibility of having embedded documents, arrays, and which can reduce the need of having expensive joins, and it is dynamic in nature. Now we will move ahead to the next thing, which is the most important part or the differentiating factor between MERN and MERN, which is Angular. So what is Angular? It's an application framework, a design framework, which you use to create single page applications. How many of you understand what is a single page application, guys? Ankit, the question is not clear. So it's not that we are trying to replace relational databases, but it's not that you want to use everything in one page, right? Or you don't want to use everything like, say, everything is not a relational database model. It's more of like that. Okay, yes, that's correct. Yes, e-commerce, correct, cool. So the most common example of using an application or something like a spa is, we call them as spa, is a single page application, is a e-commerce application. You go to Amazon.com, you go to any product in their history or in their catalog, you would find that just the URL would change and only the contents on the page changes. Rest everything remains the same. So what they are doing is the boilerplate code which was there, the your profile section, your headers, your menu, your footers, all such things are not needed to be refreshed again and again. This is the power of single page, and that is the mastery of Angular. With the routing in place, you can use Angular to develop single page applications. Now, Angular is based on TypeScript. So what it means is you can use Angular with TypeScript. So it's more of less like a language. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. We also have a small session on it. You can even record. You can even view that to learn TypeScript if you want to. Now, why people often confuse between AngularJS and Angular. So Angular 1 or AngularJS was a traditional approach. And from there on, there was a quite changes being observed. And the two were not quite linked. So it became famous as Angular 2. And with time, with the two version, the two suffix was dropped, and it only became Angular. So version 1.x were AngularJS, and post that were purely Angular. Any questions around that? Now, so what does my typical architecture of my application looks like? So see this thing. This will give you a complete understanding. A client sends a request, makes a request. The request hits the Angular. Angular passes the request, sends it to the Node server. Then Nodes receive the request, send it to the Express. Express connects to the database, gets the response, processes the response, sends the return request or the response, and then sends it back to Angular, which then manipulates the thing or to show you the code. A common example, you log in something, you send your ID and password, Node captures it, forwards it to Express. Express matches the record with the data on the file, processes it, gives it back, either true or false. The same is processed, and then Angular shows you the message, like was the login authentic or not. Any questions around that? Yes, Aman, TypeScript is quite similar to Angular. So basically, the difference between Angular and React is more or less like so Angular is a framework. So there are certain rules for it. Everything is a component. You have to use it in the exact way it is recommended or it is supposed to be used. Whereas in case of React, it's more of like a library. I'll give you a simple example. You can have any HTML file, include one React library or React file into it, and that can be a React application. It's as simple as that. But in case of Angular, it is supposed to be TypeScript, then you convert it and then you use it. Yes, there are multiple alternatives to Express, Ankit, so you can use any one of those. It should be good. But Mean is famous because it has Express. Express is quite lightweight. And yes, so you can even plan to use some others if you want. Yes, this is MVC structure purely. Now, we will move on to single page. I think we were discussing it. So what is single page? You have a single page, single HTML page. The request hits the page, you process the data, and the page is not changed or updated, just the content which needs to be changed is changed. So these all are more of like fluid design, and that is why these are quite popular. Ankit, so what you're saying about React, these are some advanced concepts. You can check our React webinars. Those have that thing in place where you can find about the differences between the two lifecycle methods. They're all backend related. So whatever backend data is there, that backend data is backend means what? Like something like API data or the actual DB database kind of thing. Database is MongoDB, but API level things like all of that is in Express. Jishan, UI UX means ability to design applications. So like it is like creating mockups, creating HTML files. Shreya, Ajax means asynchronous Java request. So you say that fire this request and don't wait for the response. Let the response come whenever it is available. So we use single page applications with the ability of JSON or XML. Now they give fluid design because you see whatever is relevant and the non-relevant things are replaced. So advantages, there are no traditional cycles happening. You just see what you have. So like think it like a mobile app. So in mobile app, you see only data which is relevant to you. It is more faster and hence more interactive. Now, so since it's rendered on the client side, even if there is something about not being rendered, so you can even use that. Please tell which one is best. So see, these so Node is a framework based on JavaScript, so you can't compare the two. So Ankit, like it really depends. So there is no such as such answer to it, like which one would be faster, which one would be better. It so like if you, basically what happens is if you are building for an enterprise grade application, enterprise applications have some certain rules due to which they sometimes can't use Angular because Angular is more of like more bounded, right? So in terms of speed, I would say that React is better because it can offer you some good performance, but when you are a beginner and you want to get started, so using Angular would help you because some boilerplate code is already there. You don't need to rewrite those things. I would say that yes, Mean is more popular, Philip, over there. Now, uh, okay, so Node or React, Node is a server and React is an application. Mean is more popular because of the so there is no answer to it. It became popular in its recent days, and since then, because people had already adopted it, and with companies like Google backing it, there was no officially no way to avoid it. So that's why it became really popular. But yes, in those days, it was really good. So don't worry about these salary things. I'll be taking career things about all of this, so don't worry about that. I will be coming to that. Now, what is this field cover all about? So overall, like this is our India's IT industry as a whole. Some stats of these things like the increment, 33% increment overall, and so there are like 2 million people employed in the year 8 and 9, and since then it is growing ever since. But what is the demand? The demand is in terms of good products. Good products means some applications which are really like so. There was a time when ERPs were the days of the thing, but with now with so ERPs are everywhere now. So now it's all about re-engineering and thinking how can the processes be more fluent and more improved with the use of technology. That is what it is today all about. So it's either about re-engineering or it's about the cost advantage, which is making people move towards these frameworks. Now, so as a full stack developer, like so if I talk about a full stack developer, over 100,000 jobs are already there, which are open. There are companies looking to hire for it. So I would say that this is the need of the hour, and you should plan to have something in it. Okay. Minimum level two. So there is no such minimum level. Having certain knowledge of JavaScript does help, but you can get started with even very less knowledge on JavaScript. So in salary terms, I would say that mean is quite popular. So due to which it has more jobs and hence a better salary options. It's not that it's not that React is not good with SEO, but Angular provides that boilerplate code to handle that. So people find it much more easy to do. For the certificate thing and recording and all of that, I think once we give it over to Eduonix, they would be in a better position to answer that. So in Mean, you can develop any application. It can be e-commerce, it can be blog, it can be job site. There are multiple options to develop in Mean. Okay. So now as an entry or as a freshman, you can expect jobs like this: junior software developer, maintainer, bug fixer, or a backend developer. But with if you go with full stack or with Mean stack, you can target the job of a junior software developer. These jobs increase over time. You can be a consultant, you can be an analyst, you can be a developer or a DevOps engineer. DevOps engineer revolve around managing the Node.js, managing the server. Developer is the kind of like kind of more of like more or less like a architect thing. So and forward. Okay. Middle level jobs involve people who want to be project leaders or team leaders or senior engineers and cloud architect and henceforth. Yes, Anubhav, you can plan to learn full stack. It would really help you in your like kind of your having your switch to coming from your current background to a database background or coming to your current background to a development background. So what is more popular is once you are good with all of that, and so then you can choose a journey that you want to be a project manager, or you can you can kind of mature your role to form a solution architect.